Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good, presented by Betches Media. Today, I am so excited to have our guest. Now, this is a returning guest. The only difference is now this guest actually has a TV show. It's funny how the world works. Our guest, Janet, has been on the show a couple of times talking about Vanderpump Rules or even 90 Day Fiancé. Huge fan of reality shows like we all are. She's kind of one of us. So it's really interesting to see her become a lead in a reality show and see how everybody responds to a character, and I can't wait to talk about some specific things with that because I just wonder what she is feeling throughout this process on a first season. The show, as you know, is called The Valley. I am extremely in love with this show for so many reasons. You hear me go on and on about this show because I think it really has a little bit of that lightning in a bottle that we like with Vanderpump Rules, but it has a lot of negativity, but it doesn't have that negativity that I think this season of Vanderpump Rules has. So I look forward to it more than Vanderpump Rules. So enough of me blabbing as I usually do. You've heard her here before. You've seen her on The Valley, the one, the only, Janet Elizabeth Caperna. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here. We've been friends for a while now. So first of all, congratulations on all of your success. Congratulations on being with Betches. They're awesome. I love watching everything that you've done grow and just,
Janet, you
all of it.
You've always been really amazing to me. And like when I said, even before the show came out, I said, Janet's like a connector. I think like I called you the operator in a sense, because how I always knew you were like introducing people to people and you were like this and this. And it was always kind of really this great environment if I was invited out by you or come to the birthday at Dave and Buster's I usually get nervous at any kind of public event. People think that's a bit, but I genuinely do. Like I went to your birthday party and hid at a bar for the first hour and a half of it because I was that nervous to be around people. But it is interesting now to watch you get your own show. And listen, I guess the first question is, The Valley is picked up for season 2, right?
Yeah, so they've renewed the show for season 2. We haven't kind of, gone over every detail. So, but I think that they're correct in anticipating that everybody will probably return.
I would think. I mean, like at this point, you get the vibe that like somebody might not return. I mean, did you even question it, Janet? Did you question it?
I think you would be crazy to not question that. I think that when it's definitely always going to be an every year we sit down, Jason and I, and we say like, is this best for our marriage, our family, like what we're doing? Are we having fun doing this still? I think it's always good to like reevaluate it. And that's what we did this year. It was very much a like, oh my gosh, this was crazy. The response to it was crazy. You never know with a new show. I kind of thought, when we're filming, I'm like, this seems kind of crazy, but I was like, it'll probably be a slow build. We'll slowly get, an audience, and it just kind of hit really hard. So it was a little bit unexpected in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think I texted because I think a lot of us like that do this kind of stuff got access to a screener early. And I think I texted you and I think the question I asked you was, do you want this to succeed? I was like, do you want this to succeed? And you were like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, well, I think this is going to succeed. Like, I think it had, like watching that first episode, I said, this is way better than I thought it would be because I want shows to be good, but we've seen so many examples on reality television of things that don't hit. And for some reason, this hits. But you said you and Jason will like check in and see if it's fun. How can this possibly be fun for you guys?
I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't like the excitement of it. Like, it is really fun. And also, like, we were going to hang out with these people all summer anyway. So we might as well
get paid. Yeah.
Yeah. You get paid a little bit, but then also just like have an excuse, I guess, to have a bunch of silly parties. And like like I've always wanted to have a hibachi party in my backyard for years. I've been like, I really want to do that. And when filming is up, it's like, this is a really good excuse to do stuff like that. So it's kind of makes it, I don't know, fun, exciting summer. The drama gets to be a lot, but really it's, those are hot moments. And there's a lot of other, fun, more calm, conversations and things that happen too.
But you are such a huge fan of reality television in general. In fact, I was thinking about when I watched this season of Love on the Spectrum, and I had posted about it, and you were texting, and it's just such a heartwarming show that makes you believe in love. Not even it's just so
units like
but
beautiful. Yeah.
But The Valley is different. The Valley isn't beautiful in that way, and I don't mean the literal actual valley where you live, but the show The Valley, that's what reality shows kind of thrive on. And you know that as much as anyone out there. I mean, how hard is it for you to be real in these situations, but also at the same time go, I want to bring drama. I want this to succeed. Was that hard for you?
I knew that the drama would come naturally. I think the reason that the show has been successful is because we all are friends. There's some enemies in the group. Like before filming, Zach and I hadn't spoken in 3 years. So going into that, I was like, all right, that's gonna be interesting. But I knew I went into it like, I'm going to be as real as possible. I'm going to do the same stuff that I would on camera, off camera. And I think that that's, what I signed up for and what I'm like agreeing to do. And so I went in like, be as authentic as possible, maybe too much. Maybe I should have like played the game a little bit more, but I also think that that's why our show was so great because like, I remember right before we started filming, Michelle looked at me and she's like, what's the drama going to be? And I was like, oh.
Wait, Michelle said that?
Yeah, she had never seen literally, I don't think any reality TV. Like she'd probably seen like Animal Planet or Planet Earth or like stuff like that, but like documentaries, not reality TV. And I was like, you need to watch like all of Vanderpump Rules before you do this. And then she came back. She's like, oh, I watched a couple episodes of the Kardashians. And I was like, you mean the self-produced Kardashians? Like where they get
seems fun.
I was like, that's not going to be it. So I think because all of us kind of went in, I went in like after seeing friends do it for so long, but, doing it first myself, it was very different. And I think that that's also why it was so raw and real because all of us went in not playing a game, not playing for the cameras. We kind of just did what we would normally do. We just, spent a lot more time.
Well, I have some theories and questions about, who is anyway, regardless though, when you do these shows, and I just like, first off, can we all agree, and those out there listening or watching, can we all agree that Jason Caperna is the true villain of The Valley? This guy, he's there doing handstands and like push-up handstands. And I've said that from the very beginning. I pray for this man's body to fall apart. How is his body? Because you are a new mother, your new parents. Congratulations. How is his body?
He still has all those abs.
Oh God.
When I'm complaining about my body and I'm like, because I'm, 6 months right now, postpartum, I'm like doing Pilates and trying to eat a little better, like the stuff. I'm not, doing all the shortcuts yet. But like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, like this area, my stomach, and Jason will be like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, don't you dare. Don't you do that. Like it really does. It makes me hate him a little bit too.
Oh God, I think he's like truly evil. I think like screw all of these other people. That guy, and also the fact that he goes in there and like says the right thing, says like even in like 2 weeks ago when he went down at Big Bear and he said, "Listen, I'm in the wrong. I wasn't paying attention to you. I love you." I was like, this son of a bitch, because Jax Taylor would have been lighting your ass up.
Oh, yeah, I think Jax. I don't know if it. I think it got cut, but when I walked back upstairs. Like Jason's like, hey, let's, he's easing me back into, the kitchen basically. And Jack's like, well, you did come out at like the worst time ever. And he was still like doubling down on it. And I was like, shut up.
It's
like,
truly, it's truly wild. Okay. So season 2, you're coming back. We don't know when we're going to start filming, but I would imagine, because I pay close attention to the ratings, and what I thought was so impressive, and I think what I'm sure Bravo feels as well, is that you guys have been able to hold your audience and you have a really low drop off from Vanderpump Rules ratings to yours. And that's a great sign. And I can't wait. And I feel like season 2, there's going to be so much pressure on you guys to really explode. And my complaint with Vanderpump Rules is that a lot of it is now lived on cast members' podcasts. Mm-hmm. You see it on Reddit threads. We see it on Instagram. I participate in all of that as well. And sometimes it takes away the beauty of the stories that these shows are trying to tell. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I hope, we don't know when we're going to start filming yet either, but I assume it's going to be this summer.
Yeah.
And it's one of those like strange things. I feel like there's so much happening right now. We should have cameras up. Like I was texting some production people, the meme of like, I need Andy and a camera.
Oh, well, I was going to ask, have you met your new cast member Paige yet? Have you met Paige Woolen?
Fun fact, Scheana had her on her podcast like a year or two ago, or like at some point, in the last couple of years. I have not. I've just, eavesdropped on Jax calling Jason and, trying to hear what's going on there.
Wait, is Jax calling Jason with lawyer advice? As my lawyer, can I get close to this girl? Is that legal?
I think he just likes to call and, brag or whatever it is, send the pictures. I'm like, wow, she's a cute girl. But I'm like that, this happening, I'm like, here we go. Like this is why I don't think any of us have to orchestrate drama or make things up, because that's going to be, as soon as Brittany and that girl are in the same room, that's going to be a story that I'm going to be sitting there front row seat with popcorn for that.
It's Rotten Hell Part 2. I mean, that's what I'm saying. But what's so interesting is that, like, I know some of you guys a little bit. And when I know you guys a little bit, sometimes it takes away, because you realize, oh, well, the reality is this. Not that you're presenting a false reality, but you like even being on Scheana's podcast. Like, I'm like, I know Scheana in a different way. So it's sometimes I'm like, oh, I can kind of see what she's doing here, what she thinks she's doing. It might not be landing, but it's one of those. So it's interesting then to see all of this mess. And even things that I wouldn't think would be a mess. Like, I would not have pictured people questioning you about certain things. And like, how is that for you to all of a sudden people thinking like, is she the villain? Is she? And then digging into your past. What is that like? And like, all honesty, what is that like?
It's interesting. There's funny stuff that comes up. It's kind of, there's good and bad. There's stuff that people dig up that I'm like, what? Someone dug up the other day. Apparently like 12 years ago, I tweeted at Kyle Richards, because I've been a fan of hers and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills for years. I tweeted at her like, please wish me a happy birthday it'll make my birthday. And she did. And it was like so long ago that it was like when it used to be like RT and that would be quotes around.
Yeah.
And so like seeing that, Scheana and I had like a good laugh about that, where I was like, oh my God, can you believe I tweeted at Kyle Richards and made her wish me a happy birthday?
But then people grab onto it and you're like, oh my God, he's been trying to be a star from the start.
Fan girl who's infiltrated the group and it's, I get it. Like, cause it is interesting, to be a fan first and to watch shows and then to be on one. I never thought this would happen or this is where I would end up. It wasn't necessarily a goal of mine. But when the opportunity came, of course I looked at it and I was like, I've loved this, element of pop culture for so long. I think I do want to participate. I think it will be fun. I think this is the right time in my life to share my story. But it is funny. I think people add a lot more of a malicious intent, like that I was just scheming to, and I understand you see moments like at the Capri dinner when I'm in the, like, waiting.
Oh, it's so good. Your face in that, like,
I was waiting. I had to pee really bad. And I was like, all right, do I pee now or do I go join in on this conversation? And I was like, I got to hear what they're saying first before. And so, you have these images of me like being sneaky and whatever. And then I think people kind of run with that and make it much more of a malicious intent than it.
Oh my God. It's like the perfect meme. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. This is like memeable right here, which is but it is interesting. And I think Vanderpump Rules especially has primed us to do this, is that, and I experience it now on a smaller scale, is that people like they'll get like half the truth, but they won't like necessarily get the whole truth. But it's much more exciting to believe that people are evil at heart. It's much more exciting because for some reason, we love villains as much as we love heroes, and it's something that we can take a lot of aggression out, but it's interesting to see it happen to somebody else that you kind of know, and you're like, well, I've never fully noticed this. I know that you like gossip. I know that you like we all do, and you're proud to admit that you like that.
The thing is, I try to be open and honest when people are like, there's a lot of people who like run in this crew who are like, oh, Vanderpump Rules, I've never heard of such a thing. What, like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I loved these shows before. Like, I met Scheana, I wouldn't have recognized her if I hadn't watched Vanderpump Rules. And I just think that you should be open and honest about those things instead of kind of being, I think it's weirder to lie and pretend that you weren't something, or I don't know. Yeah. I feel like honesty is the best policy, and I kind of I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be so honest, but that it is what it is.
Well, you're from Ohio like I am. And we talked about this years and years ago. And I know you talked about it on other shows, so I'm sorry to ask again, but can you walk us through that moment with Scheana? Because sometimes how it's presented now is she's been planning this from the very start. She's been planning this and I even did the episode yesterday. I was like, I can see Scheana. Scheana's that kind of person that if you did go up to her, there's a chance she might want to be your best friend. Like there's a chance with Scheana that could happen. What is the story?
So I was moving out here. I had separated with my husband, but then we'd moved to California together to see if things would work out here. We went back to Ohio. I was like, I want to be out there. He wanted to be here. We had obviously a lot going on. So I came out here again to like look for a place. And I came out here with my best friend, Allison, from home. We rented an Airbnb and we went to what used to be the Sycamore, which is right by
Oh yeah.
our Airbnb. We got brunch there and we knew the bartender, and we were asking him like, what's cool that we can get into today? And he was like, oh, the Mondrian pool. It's a hotel, but anybody can go. They have
This
these
Mondrian is haunted. This Tom Sandoval goes to the Mondrian like every week. It's haunted. That thing needs to be razed to the ground.
I think they just must love having Bravo film there. I feel like I see it all the time. But they were like, you should go, to this pool party. And I was like, great. Okay. So we went. And when we walked in, Scheana was there. We didn't know she was going to be there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's Scheana from Vanderpump Rules. I was telling my friend Allison has never seen anything Bravo. So I'm filling her in. I'm like, she actually just went through a divorce too. And she's young and they didn't have kids and this and this and this. And she was like, go say something to her. Like, if you know, about her divorce and stuff, like, go say something. So I did. We talked about a bunch of stuff. We did a couple of shots together. And next thing you know, we're like texting and like, she was super nice to me. And then when I moved out here officially and like signed an apartment and stuff, my birthday was like a couple days later. And I knew like 3 friends out here. And Scheana texted me and was like, what are you doing for your birthday in a couple days? And I was like, oh, nothing. Like, it's on a Wednesday, like, probably no plans. She was like, be ready at 9 a.m. And she picked me up and took me to Disneyland for the day and like treated me to the whole day. She got me like this big button that says like, it's my birthday. So everywhere we went, everybody wished me a happy birthday. It was like truly like Sheena's one of the most inclusive, kind people ever. Yeah. And it really like, she made me feel like I had a friend here and, and welcome. And like, she really cared about me having a special birthday. And that like really meant a lot to me. And then soon after that, I met her family. And as soon as I met Sheena's family, I was like, oh, I totally get you. I love you. Like how she is with her sister, mom, dad, everybody. Like, I don't know. There's a soft side of Scheana that's like very family oriented. And I loved her from the get-go.
So just for the headline, though, can we say that Scheana is the stalker? Is that okay? Janet Elizabeth says Scheana is the stalker. Okay, perfect.
She would probably love if I stalked her. She's put out her location. She's begging to be stalked. If that was the case, she would probably like me even more than she.
Oh my God. Imagine if Scheana has a stalker storyline next season and she's like, I didn't know it would feel like this. This is horrible. So, I mean, that is the story with you and Scheana. And then you did that you got to be kind of friends with all of these people, but real friends. Like you lived, when I first started talking to you, you lived with Logan, Ariana's BFF, in that apartment. Is that where you also knew Zach from? Did he live in that complex as well?
That whole apartment. Actually, so Logan used to live with Jasmine and Zach in one apartment. Zach and Logan like got into it. They were like going at it all the time, just like disagreeing about everything. And so Logan was like, there's a 2-bedroom open, move in with me. So I stole Logan from Zach and Jasmine's apartment. We moved in together. There was a whole group of us that all lived over there. Jamie Lynn at one point too. I mean, it was like everybody I feel like has been there at some point.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like when COVID restrictions were starting to let up and Tom, like, I remember you invited me out and it was like me, you, Jasmine, and like Kay York City. I remember. Yeah. And I was just like, this is wild. And you were, I mean, it really is like these people are all your friends. So it's very natural, but it is interesting how then an audience will take that and be like, it was been plotting. She's been like, you know, putting like ribbon towards like, this will get me to this will get me to there.
I mean, if I was going to spend that much time, I feel like I would get to a better place. No offense to everybody else, but like, if I was going to use skills to do that, I'd be in with like, I don't know, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, like well,
what if this is a stepping stone, Jenna? Maybe this is a stepping stone you'll get there. Like, no, I just find that interesting because there's some things where I'm like, okay, I can see the criticism or something. Like the one thing I was shouting out at the screen just because I know you're a reality show viewer, and I would actually like, just in terms of reality, it's like, you can't ice Doute out. Like, don't do that because it just, I mean, in retrospect, would you have done things any differently and also call me crazy, I've not had a child, but isn't a baby moon supposed to be between the husband and the wife or whoever's having the baby and just the other person, not with a reality show?
Sure. Jason and I did do a baby moon, just the two of us before filming. We went to Cabo, but this was a fun, chance to get everybody together. And to be honest, I didn't see it really as icing Kristen out. It was a lot of stuff happened and it was getting so dramatic. I felt like every single time all of us were together, which obviously it's, we're filming a reality show, so it's going to get dramatic, but Kristen kept dropping these bombs that were like, just bringing the energy and the attention to like all this negativity. And I was like, all right, if we're going away for a weekend, I don't want that. I don't want to be stressed on my baby moon. And also, I don't think anybody else would have gone. Like if it was kind of either
it was really that intense with the whole group because like Jesse Lally also set his foot down, but Jax, like, I mean, this is just classic Jax and it's so enjoyable to watch. He acts like he's buddy in Kristen's face. And then behind he's like, Doute, just trash, just a trash. Like, and I'm like, how is Doute still talking to Jax at all? Like, I'm so curious how this man still has any friends in how he talks about people.
I wonder, their relationship is very interesting, but it was one of those
brother and sister.
It was, I hate when they say that. I'm not really. Things. It was like, sure. It was at the end of the day, like it was, Jason and I's baby moon. I'm like, maybe it's Jason's fault. Maybe he actually is the one that's icing Toady out and didn't invite her. I think that's my new story. I'm going to start blaming it on Jason.
Please do. That guy is that guy's the true, like I say, true villain. I need Reddit threads about Jason.
But yeah, and I was just, the truth is that's what I would have done off camera. I know that was kind of one of the things that I'm seeing, and now I have everything muted, which is a really big bummer. But I was seeing stuff that was like, you can't ice her out. And I'm like, that wasn't my intention. It's just, I wanted to go away for a couple of days and not be stressed. There was a lot of stress in the group. I tried to separate in a way that made sense.
Did you truly stay up all night worried that Zach was in Big Bear?
I was okay. So I was not feeling well at all, but yes, I stayed up. I maybe slept for like an hour, but I think I said this. I was also just so pregnant and uncomfortable. I wasn't sleeping well anyway. So Zach just gave me a reason to see that right before bed. Then I was uncomfortable with my body and then my mind was running. So I was like, is he here? Is he going to show up? Is this a thing?
Because that's a reality show premise. Like people like that do show up and create storylines.
And I'm texting our producers. I'm like, is this, you guys, like what's happening? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, all right, this is, and I just, I'm like, with everybody sharing locations, I'm like, it just got my mind running. And I do that anyway. And then pregnant, it made it a lot worse because it's like, I'm uncomfortable. So I'm up all night anyway, spiraling, wondering like what's happening. If there's a big setup and a jump scare around the corner. Like I really didn't know what was going to go on.
I think people keep forgetting that you're very pregnant in these episodes. Like people do seem to leave that out a lot. And I'm like, wow, that must really kind of add to things. Now in the show though, it almost kind of comes off as this humorous thing because Zach and Doute are doing their little spa, like, the sad spa day. And and Zach, were you surprised to see him crying that he was not able to go, that he was not invited?
Yes and no. I don't think it was that he wasn't invited to my baby moon. I think that he wanted to be on like the party trip or, wherever the cameras were and stuff too. I think it was, I don't think that if it were any other time and maybe we weren't filming, I don't think that he would expect to be invited at all. And like I said, we have like this. So he apologized to me on my birthday, you didn't see that part, but we hadn't spoken for like 2.5 years before my birthday party. And so when deciding to go away on a weekend, I was like, Zach and I are cool, but we're just now kind of taking baby steps to being friends again after, not speaking for so long. So it was like, I'm cool with him coming over for like a dinner or, whatever, but to be stuck under the same roof for multiple nights, I was like, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, it is. That's the other thing too. And I keep that's why I'm so excited for a season 2, a season 3, because there is so much history that is yet to come out. Like even little things that I've heard, like there's so much history. And I don't even mean like you have so much dirt on people, but there are so many ups and downs, or even like back in the day with like Scheana, there was like, a little bit of time where, you took apart and then you're back to being really good friends again. I'm like, there's all of these very real relationships that I can't wait to explore, see how they explore on camera. Right. I just get nervous. Like, here's it. Like they're still not doing a reunion for the Valley, correct?
Yeah, not that I wish they would so much, but I think
You really do wish, you really would want to do that.
yeah. Well, I think it would be I see the importance in reunions, not just for our show, but for every show. I think it's really good to get everybody in a room and kind of like, I don't know, clear the air, come to a place of resolution before then you step right back into it. So I'm kind of bummed we're not getting that, but I also understand like that, season 1 shows rarely get them.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I yes, yes and no. I mean, we could even do a Watch What Happens Live set one. My nervousness about it was, and what I had said on the show was, I just got nervous that maybe things were in such a tenuous position with the cast that what if you guys broke completely, like it made things worse before picking backup cameras for season 2. That was my worry.
I think that that's probably also maybe some of the strategy of it is like, let's just roll right back into it instead of having what could be a really tense conversation getting everybody in the room. So it's hard to say.
Am I allowed to ask if you and Doute are in a space where you're communicating? Is there any way I can broker peace here? Is there any way? I mean, where are we with Doute right now in a positive light?
I have a lot of love for Kristen. I really do. We've been friends for years. It hasn't been good for a little while. And last summer was not good for us. We had a little moment at our premiere party where we kind of were friendly. And I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get back to a good place. And then once it started airing, it is really difficult watching it all back and then seeing the new comments. And people sometimes have really good points and they'll point something out that I'm like, wow, she did do that now that, and I can't believe she said that. And when you point it and it gets your mind running all over again. So I'm not saying like Chris and I will never be friends again. Like that's not it. It's just, it's going to take some time, but we'll see. Like
so even the success of this has not brought you guys closer together in any way. Cause I thought maybe like even with the success, that would be so exciting of, yeah, man, let's go into season 2 and really let it rip. Like, I didn't know if there were those, like, is there a group text with all of you guys?
There was, until people started getting mad at each other and removing each other. I got removed from it and I was trying to text in the chat and I'm like, hey, something's up. My texts aren't working. Is it because Jason's droid is in it? What's happening? And they're like, oh no, so-and-so removed you. And then they removed her. And then and I'm like, all right, so we're too petty for a group chat.
I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store right now because I'm just like vomiting all of my valor because I'm so excited about this show. But I want to also kind of walk that fine line because I don't want to get any, I want this show to be a success, but also I think it is so interesting going into this season. And it's not just like you and Kristen, like I almost thought we were going to, it's like, oh, they're really pitting these two women against each other. And like, let's see. And then I watched, this will air on Wednesday. So last night's episode. And then next week I was so sad at the end when it said the season finale. And I was like, oh no, because I'm like, I know a lot of that's going to be taken up with Jax and Brittany, but I feel like we have all of these other storylines. Like, where do you and Kristen leave off? And I guess talking to you now, it probably gets left in like a cliffhanger.
Well, I will say, as from like a viewer's perspective, there's not a lot that's happened from the end of filming till now. So you'll see everything. Like that's the nice thing about like rolling right into season 2, like where, our friendship has been strained and it's kind of been put on a pause. And then season 2, we'll have to see like, where we go from there, but you'll see it. Like I feel like it's kind of a bummer when a lot of resolutions or things happen in the off season and off camera. And then you're kind of like, oh, how did they get back to this point? So at least there's that. You'll see whatever resolution or conflict comes next.
I'm sure we'll see. Jason, like, I mean, watching even last night's episode and the season, the Jesse Michelle Lally relationship is so brutal and it's brutally honest in a lot of ways, even though if there's some things being hidden. Did that ever did Jason go like, listen, this might not be good long-term for our marriage? Like watching these people, now we have Jax and Brittany, we have Michelle and Jesse, these are all at different points. Even Jesse Lally goes at the end of this week's episode, he's like, hey, Jax, I just, listen, I'm the ghost of Christmas future. Like, look at me, you better start. And he's like, she'll never leave. I'll never let her leave. Like, is it weird for you guys to watch this and go, is it the smartest thing for our long-term relationship?
Definitely something we talk about. Like, first, our family and marriage comes first. So if there's ever a time where we feel like the show's straining that, we would have no problem absolutely walking away. But I actually think it made us a lot stronger. Before the show, I would come home and be like, guess what Brittany told me, to Jason. He'd be like, what, he didn't.
Yeah.
But then he kind of had a reason now to be invested in the gossip a little bit more, or like just what's going on. Like, oh yeah, he would be like, oh, Jesse said this about their marriage. I'm like, oh, Michelle said this. And then we would look at each other and be like, how would you feel if I said this and this? And we were having conversations like that we never would have had otherwise. And so I think it actually brought us closer together. And also there's so many, we don't see everybody else's individual scenes until it airs. So a lot of these conversations that Jesse and Michelle were having, we kind of heard about like, oh yeah, they're in therapy, they're doing this, but then to actually see it and see kind of how bad it was, we're like, oh, we're seeing it for the first time too. And we were kind of surprised by, the state of a lot of their marriages.
Well, it's bad if Jason comes home one day and says he wants to start a cover band. That's going to be a bad, you'll know. Open a bar. Yeah. Jason Saloon. Yeah, further into the valley. Gosh. Okay. So all of this season, you just said like, it is weird to watch it back and scenes that you're not there for, or even talking heads that you're not there for. Watching these back, what are some of the things or one of the things that really surprised you or stung that you were like, oh, wow, this is actually what reality shows are. I didn't count on this.
I mean, Jax comparing us and saying that we're very similar. And
I
was like,
I literally have that on my notes of like, what's it like for Jax to say you guys are two sides of the same coin?
You question yourself more. That was like, what are we? And I'm not so like in denial that when I see stuff like that, I really think about it. I'm like, are we that similar? And nothing made me like really question life more than that interview clip. I will say just also like, kind of seeing in Kristen's interviews, the way she was speaking about me, or kind of in some of her scenes just with Luke, I'm like, does she like me? Does she want to come on a trip? Like, just the way she was speaking about me, I'm like, she's acting like she really likes me and that I'm just being mean to her for no reason. And I'm like, you don't like me either. Like we're both kind of on the same page here. I just am the one who has a baby moon coming up. So I'm not, if Kristen were having a trip at that exact time, I wouldn't be invited to it either. It just worked away.
I'm curious if she would have still invited you though, knowing that it could have played. And I don't know. I'm so curious because and it's really dangerous as an audience when you start looking at these things like a football game. You're like, well, these people, you got to go in there like this. And then you Monday morning quarterback these scenes. Like we see Jax 2 episodes ago, just railing on Brittany, like even so that I was uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And he's doing that in front of all the women. And you were the one that came out like, hey, listen, I think you really could use therapy. Is there any moment where all you ladies want to like yellow jackets it together and go, dude, what the F, Jax? Stop the BS.
Yeah. I mean, I really thought it was a beautiful moment actually after they kind of got into it. You see all of us girls like in bed with Brittany, like literally physically surrounding her kind of with love and like in like a protective barrier and just like hyping her up and just being like, everything's going to be okay and validating her feelings. So I do think we've all come together. I don't know if any of us would like scream at him, but I think all of us tell Brittany like, See,
that's why we could get Doute would scream out. Like we can give that to Doute. Well, no, I will say though, like all of this stuff. And when it first happened, well, first off, is Brittany okay? Like, I mean, listen, I've been hard on that couple and, but I've been able to see more of Brittany's, who she is, I feel on the Valley than I ever have before and see a little bit more of her perspective. And I walked away from every episode. And then even once it got announced that this really is real, is she okay? I really worry about her. And especially after this weekend with the Paige stuff, how does that not completely wreck you?
I'm sure she has her feelings and, I don't think it's easy to see somebody, even if it was your choice to leave, to see your ex with somebody else is always difficult. I'm just really proud of her. I genuinely wasn't like, in our conversation where I say like, I know you guys don't believe in divorce. I really thought that she was kind of on that same page too. And like, that it's like, well, even if we're miserable, we're sticking together. And, when she said like, actually, I don't, that's not me. I believe, in divorce or however she said it.
Yeah. That happens in this week's episode when you guys went out. She was like, no, we would definitely do that. And I'm like, whoa.
That was the first that I had really ever heard her be open to that, or that was something that even she, I don't know, believed in, if that's even the right word with divorce. But I just am really proud of her for like recognizing what is not working and taking a step away from it. It's really hard to leave a marriage. We've done it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
Guys, I highly recommend. It's so fun. And in no way is it painful at all. Wow.
Yeah, it's a super fun process. Highly recommend for everyone. No, I think it's really hard. It takes a lot of courage and strength to leave something for that you've been in for a decade that feels really comfortable. But at the end of the day, she wasn't happy. She knew that, and Jax wasn't, I don't think either. And she knew that this was not working and that it wasn't going to get better unless, a change was made. And so for just her to take the step to move out and to take space away, I'm just really proud of her. And I know it's going to be hard, and it's hard right now, but I think that she's going to be really happy and really proud of herself. Like in a year from now, she's going to look back and be really proud of herself, I think.
Jenna, yes to all of this, but come on, this is insane. This is insane. We're so used to Sandoval that it's not Sandoval, but this is insane. Like, I didn't picture, like, maybe in my fan fiction, I pictured like somebody like Paige Woolen. No, like, I don't know her personally, but somebody with like extremely like a bosom. And we've seen Jax's episodes where he like, come on, this is so on the nose that I'm even jaw dropped. This is insane. This is way too dramatic.
But are we shocked that Jax is now dating like a hot girl with big boobs? Like,
no, but it's so on the nose. It's so on the nose.
That is on every like, card.
And then Sandoval and Schwartz, they're all together again. And by the way, have you ever thanked Sandoval? Because part of Sandoval got the wheels moving on this thing. Did it almost, do you think, encourage the bad behavior of Jax?
That's a tough one. I think Jax really went into this thinking it was going to be very different. I really think he thought it was going to showcase him as a good dad, husband, all the stuff, which he is a great dad. I will give him that. But I think he thought it was going to showcase him in a different way. And it really put a mirror up, I think. And yeah, I mean, I think it didn't go the way I think he thought it was.
I mean, and this is my conspiratorial mind now, or did it go how he thought it would? Did he do this in order to actually drive that plank, because some part of him did know that he was not happy, and he refuses to seem to do therapy unless it's some kind of mystical, Jesse, I'm sure his ayahuasca journey is going to happen soon, but all of these men are doing these weird forms of therapy instead of therapy. Part of me sometimes goes, did he go on this show, like we say with the housewives, to actually instigate a potential separation?
Or I don't think so. I really think he thought it was going to showcase him in a different way. And then once cameras are there, you can't hide from the truth and your own reality. And you have to, if you don't open up and show the truth, it'll find its own way to come out. And so, yeah, I don't think that I don't think either one of them a year ago thought that this is where they were going to end up.
But isn't that crazy about reality? I said that from the get. I was like, well, I'll watch it, but I said this guy is going to potentially throw away this beautiful family that he says he is so proud of. I said, just you watch, this is going to happen. Yeah. And it really did happen. And part of me is still shocked because part of me just was like, no, this is fake. Now I'm like, maybe this is fake. Maybe this is all staged. And now I realize, oh, this is very much not staged, but it reads like a reality show and cameras aren't even up now.
I think it really, Jason and I have both talked about this a lot. I think that when you have cameras up, it just really puts the fire to it. So anything that was going to boil, it just speeds it up the process. So I think whatever is inevitable is going to come out even faster because you have producers and people saying and how do you feel about that? And where are you on the stage? And you have to talk about your life. So they're like, let's pull at this thread. So if you have a thread, it's going to get tugged and it's going to get, you're going to unravel. So
what threads are you scared of unraveling for you guys? Are there threads that you're like, man, and you're probably not going to say it here, but are there threads of I'd prefer to stay away? What if they reach out to your ex? What if they reach out? Are there things where you're like, I don't want to go there?
My ex, I hope he has privacy because he deserves peace and he didn't sign up for any of this. But then again, I truly have nothing to hide. People can dig up stuff and it's I can answer to any of it. When people are like, she tweeted at Kyle Richards. I sure did.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's right now, I think you've been in jail for 80 years. You're a criminal and you're a Republican and I get all of these things and I'm like, I don't know, man, but it seems like there would probably be a good answer.
I saw that someone brought up that I was charged with theft in 2018. Have you seen this?
Yes,
Okay.
I did. Yes, I have seen that.
Jason and I were just cracking up about this because so what happened? And people are like, we're going to dig and find out. I'm like, please do, because it's actually a pretty boring story, but it has actually a funny ending. So I worked for a remote company. I quit working for them. I needed to mail my cell phone back. I did not follow the instructions to mail my cell phone back. So the company reported it as stolen. I didn't know about this. I thought I sent the thing back.
Yeah.
And once I applied for a job in, I think it was like 2020, they ran a background check and they're like, you have a theft charge. And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, nah, like you must have entered my numbers wrong, whatever. And they pulled it up and I was like, what is this? I called the police department, whatever. And they're like, it's from this cell phone. And I was like, oh, well, the cell phone was sitting somewhere. They went and got it. They dropped the charges. The funny thing is this work cell phone was a Droid. So once I figured out that I had this charge floating out there, Jason was like, oh, so not only do you like androids, you're stealing androids. And he would not let it go. He was like,
wait, so Jason's storyline next season is just going to be that he's an android user.
It's a lot of his personality. So
evil.
Yeah,
it's evil.
That was my big criminal past in history.
That's it. I was hoping to tie this in somehow with Scheana, but this is it. It's just a stupid phone. Okay, stupid.
I didn't follow instructions when returning a work cell phone, and it got reported as stolen. And that cell phone happened to be a Droid, which Jason loves to point out and to make fun of me for.
We've always had like really fun, funny conversations. I know me personally, I go into really depressed states. I get really hurt by things. I'm not good at standing up for like all of these things. Do you ever, I mean, you seem so confident. You seem like I said, you connect all of these people. Do you get hurt in any of this?
Absolutely. There's stuff, right now I truly had to mute everything, which sucks because I am a Bravo fan. So like,
don't live in the comments. They said this at the Vanderpump reunion. Don't do it.
The comments, but I want to see like what people are saying about Jersey and like stuff like that and like the other shows. And now I can't because I have to mute everything, I feel like. But it's because I did read comments and I turned comments off on my page unless you follow me. And I'm like, because I don't need to see every single person's opinion. It is hurtful. I have people in my DMs saying like, oh, I hope you didn't have a baby. I hope you had an abortion. All sorts. You're probably a terrible mother. Like things where I'm just like, wow, just because I didn't invite somebody on my baby moon, you're going to say all that. So it is that part is really tough. And, there's been many times where I dug into the comments and Reddit, which is a place I love. Like normally, I have to turn it off because it was,
hey Reddit, what's up, buds?
I had to turn it off because it was, it did hurt my feelings. There was many mornings where I was crying and then, not being present minded for like my child. And I'm like, this isn't healthy for me to participate in the internet part of this so much. And, I am confident because I do, feel good about the decisions I make and how I treat people and who I am. I think that, of course I've made mistakes. There's things that I regret. But at the end of the day, I do feel good, like that I try to do the right thing. So I have to turn the comments off because they do hurt my feelings. And I think it is part of the game, but I also don't want to read too much into it because I don't want to adjust my behavior and who I am based on the comments, because I think that also is when reality TV takes kind of a turn for the worse. Then you're not living authentically and living the life that you signed up to give, the truth of it all. You're then maybe adjusting to please, everybody else. And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Was it shocking though? Because like, the first episode, I was like, oh, they're going to be they're the stable couple. They're the one like, Jason and Janet, like that's already like, they're the level-headed ones, da, da, da. And it was very interesting when, I was like, wow, this is really going a certain way that I didn't necessarily think that it would go. Did that surprise you as well? Or were you like, well, I don't know.
Yes and no. I knew that I would get some pushback. Like I knew having it out with Kristen this summer, probably I was like, we'll see how this goes. Like it could really go either way, but it's the truth of what happened. So I just had to, roll with it and just like, again, just be myself and hope that it was going to be okay. I will say too, like, I hate people keep saying like she's hiding behind her pregnancy or using her pregnancy as an excuse. Pregnancy is fucking hard. And I was pretty bitchy this summer because I was like on a level like 7 annoyed just because like I had like feet jammed up in my ribs. Like I'm just so there was definitely times where I look back and I'm like, ooh, I was extra mean on that one. Or like I will say I really regret like screaming across the dinner table. Like I called Kristen crazy. That was a low blow. I feel bad about that. I look back at that and I was like, oh, why did I have to go there? That was mean girl behavior. But the other part, I'm just like, you know what? I was a 7-8 month pregnant woman. I was bitchy. I snapped a little bit more than I would have, but that was my reality at the time. So I shared it, and maybe it didn't get the best feedback, but
well, that's what I was saying. I was like, if people are saying you're a villain, are you going to go into season 2? I'm like, I'm going to lean into this villain. I'm going to cut people. Let's go. Or you're just going to be yourself, like you said.
Be myself. And if there's instances where, like it's interesting to choose like the people who choose the word villain. Cause I'm like, for what? Because I didn't include everybody because I had healthy boundaries. Like,
but that's what we do. That's what reality television do. We do hero, we do villain. That's how we do. We do with Vanderpump Rules. And you guys are in the Vanderpump Rules ecosystem. So it is this kind of, I've never had this viewing experience really where it is so entwined with Vanderpump Rules, yet it's its own thing. And that's what I want to keep encouraging because, and that's the big argument too. And I know you are probably between a rock and a hard place because you are close with both of them. The big Lala and Scheana, they're going to the Valley. They're begging to be on the Valley. And I'm like, listen, I have issues with Lala this season, just from a viewer's perspective. I don't know, but Scheana, I'm like, I have such a soft spot for Scheana, but at the same time, you guys are killing it. I'm like, this is perfect the way it is. And I try to also explain to the audience, I don't know if they're going to pay Scheana and Lala's day rate that they get on Vanderpump to go to the Valley. Where do you stand on that? Do you understand the fans going, you guys are enough?
Totally. And that's awesome that they think that. I will say, like, personally, I hang out with Scheana and Lala all the time, and they're real friends with the group. Yeah. So personally, I'm like, I would love to have them over. Like, let's hang out more this summer. To be honest, I don't think either one of them are necessarily jumping at the opportunity. I'm not saying even there is one, like, I don't know if they've been asked or whatever, but when I've been like, God, I would love it, they've kind of like been like, we'll see.
Yeah. Do you feel like, man, Scheana and Lala are calling me every day now. Wow. It's like, do you feel that at all where they're like, wow, I'm like popular all of a sudden?
I've always seen them the same amount of, you know what I mean? Of times. Scheana and I have been close. We've had a falling out, but we've been close for a long time. Lala and I have gotten closer maybe over the last like 2 or 3 years. A lot of that's because like when my mom comes out to visit, our moms get along really well. So we'll plan like mom dates together, which is really fun.
Yeah.
But I would love them too. And I will say, like, from the audience perspective, the audience also was like, we don't want Jax, Kristen back on our screens. Cancel this show. We're not going to watch this show. This show is going to be terrible. Who asked for this? And now everybody's like,
I will say,
said that.
One of the only times I'm proud of myself. I'm one of the only, I feel like I was in a minority of people that I'm like, I'm going to watch the hell out of this show. Yeah. It might not be good, but I'm excited for it. And it's so weird how it switches. Like all of a sudden they go from bitching of like, who asked for this to, I can't wait for the new episode. And that's that's got to be really exciting to be on the receiving end of that if it wasn't, for all the negative aspects. But I also think Scheana and Lala will pop up for cameos like they did this. And I, you can see little storylines, but I just feel like there's so much unmined thing. I wanted to talk about unmined storylines with you guys. Daniel and Nia, such a beautiful couple, and it's a different perspective on a couple that we get on reality television. Were you surprised in this week's episode when Nia was like, you just said the F word to me on national television? And you really got the sense of like, oh man, because this guy was hammered. Yeah. Was that surprising to you?
Yes and no. I mean, I missed that moment in person. I think I knew that they were having a little, like, she was like leaning into him a little bit and saying some stuff. So I missed that exact thing at the dinner table. But one of the things that I loved about that is Nia she wasn't like passive aggressive and wasn't like, oh, you're going to be mean to me. She just looked at him and is like, you just said this. I don't appreciate it. Like, reel it in. Like, and I think that that's like the most healthy way to go about that. Like, instead of just being like, oh, he's being mean, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, get back at him, or I'm going to say this or whatever. She was very direct. She was like, you just, said the F word to your wife on TV, or like, are you proud of that? Like, and he, reeled in pretty quickly. And then the next day they had this beautiful conversation where they, talked it out and they didn't ignore, the issue. So I thought it was like the most direct like level-headed conversation you can have. I mean, they're a beautiful couple, but all marriages obviously have bad days or bad nights like that. And so I thought it was nice that they just like were open and honest about it, like addressed it very quickly, and I don't know, shared it. And it was a very real, relatable argument.
Oh, yeah. I love when he was talking to her and he said, this is this season of our life, like this season of our life. And I thought that's such a beautiful way to put it, is like this season, because it really, and I don't mean seasons of television shows, but like season of our lives of like, some seasons were it's just not us. It's not like, and her storyline with postpartum is so wonderful. Like these shows. And also you highlighting, Jared's leukemia and all of these are the really good things that the show is able to kind of sneak in, where you're like, this is weird to watch a couple communicate in this positive way with each other, and a man listening to, and Jason does this as well. I've noticed that bastard. But it really is nice. And I think that's why they're needed, because we don't get to see a lot of couples like them. I just wonder, I'm like, how the hell is Daniel friends with Jax? Like, my whole question on this whole thing is, and no offense, Jax, if you're going to be angrily listening or if somebody plays this for you, how is everybody friends with this man I don't know him personally. He must wow you personally. He must, because I just don't understand how it works.
Entertaining person. I will say that. He's never boring.
Charles Manson wasn't boring, Janet. Are you kidding me?
Okay. That's what I can give him. Not boring. Okay.
Yeah, not boring. Okay, then Michelle and Jesse Lally, we've seen this. It's been brutal. Like, the amount, I've never seen a man try to like pull a lady in for a kid. Like, you just know, you feel how not into it she is. And in this week's episode, we, find out unfortunate news that, he had sex with, they made love, and he said, she acted like I was somebody else. She wasn't even there. And it's brutal. But I will say, we already know that they're both with other partners that they seem. Jesse Lally was on Watch What Happens Live. He was being a goofball. He was like, hey, like, they're both way happier. Does that you notice as well?
I didn't realize how sad Michelle was. And now watching the show back, just like her facial expressions the whole time, you can just tell that there's like a sadness behind her eyes. And now when I see her, she's so light and bright and bubbly. And I'm like, that's the Michelle I know. So watching it back and seeing that sadness, it makes me sad for her. But then I'm also like, well, thank God it's not the opposite, where I'm watching a bubbly person who's now really sad. Now I'm happy that she's in a better place and happy. And Jesse seems happy too.
Oh, I mean, he was doing cartwheels on Watch What Happens Live. I was like, who is this guy? Like, who is this guy? Right? But it is, and he's like, oh yeah, Michelle's boyfriend, pretty cool guy. I was like, what is going on? And that's what I just said, like, wow, you hold on to something so tight, and then when you let it go, you realize that was potentially the right move for both of them. Yeah. Is it true that the director was Greta Gerwig that Michelle was hooking up with? I'm joking. I'm joking. No. Okay. I know I only have a little bit more time with you, even though I could keep this going forever because I'm a geek right now. A couple of the big things that have been revealed in the episodes, and this kind of more of a viewer than you being a part of, has been from Doute. Earlier in the season, she drops the big fight. She's been Michelle's been with a boyfriend a year ago or for a year. We never got follow up on that at all, which is shocking. And then in this week's episode, Michelle volleys that back to Kristen and says, there's a hint that Luke potentially cheated on Doute. Or no, she potentially cheated on Luke. And Michelle puts this out in a talking head. Were you shocked to see that?
I was extremely shocked to see that. And I was texting her and I was like, what is going on?
Was she just doing that just to like start trouble? I mean,
your guess is as good as mine on this. And I now am like shaking ready to see the finale because I'm wondering like how it's all going to.
So you don't know if this all gets talked about in the finale? You weren't.
Obviously I didn't see her, interview bite, but I didn't know that this was a conversation that was had if it was. So
it shocked me. I did not see that coming a mile away.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I know since it was in a preview, sometimes like the week before, 2 weeks ago, it left with seemingly Michelle admitting to an affair when she's like, I do text people. And then they cut it. And then she explains it, she's like, for work, I text people. So I'm interested to see if it's some sort of cliffhanger or.
And it just turns out to be nothing. It's like a easy.
Yeah.
Can you appreciate from a viewer's perspective that like Luke coming off of like a fish out of water is kind of comedic at times, where he's like, "Let's go, Kristen," and it's like, no, like it's got to be really wild for him to come to meet Kristen the way he did, to have that space in Colorado, and then to come here and get thrown into all of this.
Yeah.
Are you able to watch that and go like, wow, this is a wild story for him?
I think that it's why it's so good. Like, we all were literally rookies having no idea really how to step into this or what we were fully getting into. And Luke, definitely the same. Like, he came from like a pretty peaceful like life, not in LA and not about this lifestyle at all. So seeing him in any of these moments, I'm like, I don't know. Part of me's like scared for him, but then also I'm like, he's being totally himself. So that's good. But I don't know. It's a hard thing to navigate. And I think, even just being in LA and being around all these people for the last 7 years, I still wasn't ready. So I can just imagine that Luke coming into this world from Colorado and being like, I think was like a hemp farmer, or like, something, he did something with hemp on his Colorado property. And I'm like, to go from that to like LA, you're front and center in a reality show. It's gotta be like, I bet his head was spinning the whole summer.
Well, and also like Doute, I mean, just like a Doute, like this Fleetwood Mac empath. You meet like, there's not a lot of people like Doute out there, and I mean that as a compliment. Where this guy must have been like, I've never met a woman like you ever. I mean, It's got to be shocking that now he then winds up on a television show. Okay, you already talked. Shout out to Gibson John's gabbing with Gib. You talked about some really intense things that I think we all, like you guys listening or watching, all know about. I don't want to start any kind of thing. You can go back and listen to it, but I will say, Doute has, I think, come out and said that is not true. Can you take her at her word that she was not wishing ill will, nor Zach was wishing ill will on you or your baby? Can you
say they're just as little moments that make me think they weren't as supportive? I will say, like, Zach, I'm not going to speak on. I think that he will have to own his words eventually. Kristen, like, it's scenes for me where, like, when they're saying that, like, oh, I posted that Big Bear location because I wanted to be petty with a purpose towards Janet. And that I look at stuff like that and I'm like, what was the purpose? To like cause stress to a pregnant person? Like, that's not really fun. Like, I know we're on a reality show, and sure, being petty in those moments, like, I get how it can be funny. But for me, I was like, this is also a very real tough time in my life. So being petty and just, and that's your goal, that doesn't make me feel like people who are being super like supportive and want, like
good things.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you want to cause me stress. Like, that's not very nice.
Well, in the preview for the finale, we say, hey, Janet's the Queen of England because she is dead to me. And then we see Jason six-pack Caperna like light this guy up all of a sudden. So I'm like, oh my God, like it seems insane. And it looks like it's at Jax's saloon potentially. So we really got a lot to look forward to at this finale.
It's firecracker, let me tell you.
Okay, but your heart is open. There is potential for everybody to get along. That's the main point. And I know, don't boo me at home when you're listening. I'm trying to be nice. Okay, and then finally, Vanderpump Rules as we go into since it is part of the ecosystem. What is your thoughts this season on that? Now, this isn't your show, but you know these people, and then watching these reunions, can you understand some of the commentary that has come Lala's way or come Ariana's way? Do you understand that?
I understand. I've talked to everybody kind of about it, and I really do understand everyone's perspective and what everybody was kind of doing. I think everyone just really clashed, and I won't dare take a side on it, but I will just say I think everybody meant well and was trying to do what they thought was the best thing, but everybody was on a different page. It really felt like, and not anybody was aligning on what, I don't know. Nobody could agree or fine.
And as time passes, as time passes, though, are they starting to see more of everybody's side of the story? Are they starting?
I think everybody can. I've heard Scheana say some stuff recently where she's been like, oh, I've been thinking about this more. And, with this group, this is one of those moments that it looks like, oh my God, nobody's ever going to speak again. Nobody's going to be friends again. There's no mending this. In this group, it always comes back together. So
it's literally insane. Cause I was like, oh my God, we're going to watch the first, like, the last couple of minutes of the finale. Lala's thing is that she says, I'm like, how would Ariana ever trust Lala again after this moment? And I think that's what's exciting as a viewer, but then we've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. And you were just at something about her, the opening. And I know you really were so like big in supporting that and helping with all of those things. Was that really exciting to watch that finally open?
I mean, it was so awesome. They've worked so hard. They've jumped over so much red tape, did it at a time in their lives when they probably have never been busier. So to sit in that gorgeous sandwich shop and have a glass of Aveline and have an amazing sandwich, I was like, they sell Aveline there, I also
lover boy and Aveline.
It's the best. And so I like sitting there and being able to have all their sandwiches and like have a glass of wine and just look at them. And I just like felt so proud, so happy for them. They deserve all the success. It was like such a beautiful thing to see. And now I'm just mad that, Vanderpump's delaying filming or whatever's happening, that we won't get to see it so soon. But
well, it's like they're calling you guys up to bat. Like you're getting the summer slot. So you guys got to bring it, but at the same time, be real.
Maybe we'll get to film a valley scene at something about her. That would be pretty epic.
Oh, I'm sure. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many little possibilities that I could completely see. And also, I know I'm a big fan of your mom, Claudia, as well. And I know she's there, not in the room with you, but there, and she helps out with your child. I want to see your mom on next season. I think she would be a great addition.
She's wild. I don't know if I don't know if I can allow her to be on TV. She might say stuff that I would.
Yeah, we're going to need her. We're going to need her there. We're going to need her there 100%. And she, like, every time I make like a stupid meme or even the Paige Woolen, she likes it. And I'm like, hell yeah, Claudia. Okay. So sorry, I know you got to go, but I keep getting like these little flashes. The other thing, just Jax and Brittany, I just want to say still, Janet, how insane it is. I can't believe you're this calm about this. This is insane. I do want Brittany to date immediately. I hope you can hook somebody or maybe a lawyer friend of Jason's. He probably wouldn't do that. But the other question I had was, I think you were in that photo with Lori Kay from a couple weeks ago. You were not in that photo? Okay. I thought for some reason, but I was like, did that turn out to just be another fan rumor that totally didn't exist in the ether at all?
Your guess is as good as mine.
But you talked to Brittany,
I have my theory and I will keep it to myself. But we'll have to see. I hope that's something or I feel like that's something we have to talk about, when cameras are up. I mean, it's been such a talked about thing. It's at the very least going to need cleared up, I think.
Will we have your pink booted friend and Jared back on? We had Simon. I love that Simon and Jared turn out to be your henchmen. And even God. They got like, it was, I mean, but there's so funny scenes. Watching him run away in the boots was like hysterical.
Oh yeah. So hilarious. Honestly, it was so funny. I was like, oh my God, if I had henchmen, I would have sent them out and had them do a lot more of my dirty work.
Give it season 2.
Yeah. Season 2. My henchmen are coming.
Okay. Anything else that you would want us to know? Anything that you want to really help put me on the map right now? Is there anything that you can tell me to just blow our friggin' minds?
There's a lot happening. From what I can see, the beginning of season 2 is going to be insane. Truly, truly insane.
Okay, so we know it's shooting. You guys, we'll keep you up to date on everything that happens over here on So Bad It's Good, but just open up the internet. It's everywhere. Janet, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you, will we see your child next season or is that a no-go?
I think so. I mean, we'll see. We're trying to figure out what the best way is, to introduce him to this or not. We don't share him on socials because it's too new for us to figure out right now, but we're trying to figure out the best way that he will maybe be around. We'll see.
Are you waiting for a people exclusive to put
No.
I'm joking.
No, I think we want to see like I don't know. It's an ongoing discussion with Jason and I, what we want to do with him. If we want him to participate or very lightly or how, or, what part of our parenting, we want to share.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for being as open, and I hope you guys out there listening got a different perspective. I hope you're not going boo. I hope you enjoyed this because I certainly did. And the Valley season premiere next week. Unfortunately, no reunion, but hopefully they'll go right back into shooting. The star, Janet Caperna, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.